everybody, and welcome back for another episode of the Nice Doing Business with You podcast. Today, I've got another member of our team, Micah Van Rice, who's our director of RevOps, a former HubSpotter, and a power user of a tool called AskElephant. Today, we also have James Hinkson on with us. He's the head of revenue and partnerships at AskElephant. In the last year or so, we've quickly become buddy-buddy with this group as we're doing lots of cool stuff with AskElephant and HubSpot. So quick background on James. After he graduated from BYU, he worked at E-Trade, and then he later joined the Army. After the military, he worked in sales and consulting as a fractional RevOps consultant. And he later joined the AskElephant team after he was looking into it as a tool for a company where he was the head of RevOps, and decided that he was so impressed by this tool that he was interested in joining their team directly. And Mike and I can both share lots of war stories with you, as we've both personally used AskElephant quite a bit here at Vendilli and with some of our clients. And we know firsthand how beneficial the tool can be. So James, we understand why you decided to jump on board with a scrappy startup that's doing some very neat things in the AI space. Let's kind of dive right in. Is there anything I missed in the bio that you think is worth sharing, or anything you want to say?
No, I loved it. I had a weird path. So I started as an analyst, ended up after military going through every bit of sales and implementation to consulting. And now here I am at AskElephant. So yeah.
That's cool. So you were an analyst in the Army?
No, that's a longer story probably, but I was working at E-Trade as an analyst. And
Oh, I
then,
see.
yeah, for 50 different reasons, felt like I needed to change. So I decided to sign up.
Yeah. What'd you do in the Army?
Are you familiar with the 18 X-ray track?
18 X-ray. No, I'm an Air Force guy, so.
That's all right. I thought I was real high speed or cool and wanted to be a Green Beret. So it's you sign up and you go through a standard training, and then you end up going to Fort Bragg for SFAS. So I made it through that, got injured a little bit while I was there, and during my med recovery, picked up a short-term assignment with First SFC. And after my assignment there, anyways, went back, ended up washing out, came back here to outside. I was there for 2 years, basically, start to finish. And then I finished my last 4 in the Guard out here in Utah.
Okay, awesome. The 18 series MOS, that's infantry, correct? Or no? Is that special
Similar.
forces?
Technically, the 11 ones are infantry. If I had finished it, it would have been special forces, but
Very cool. Well, the attrition rate there is insane. It's a very demanding course. I'm somewhat familiar, but more from the Air Force side. But that's pretty neat. You went through that. I'm sure it was super demanding, and you learned a lot about your limits and capabilities and all those fun things.
definitely learned a lot.
Yep. All right. So how long have you been with the AskElephant team now?
Coming up on a year. So for a normal place, I feel like that would feel like just a brief little blip, but for here, it feels like a long time. We're pretty new. So one of the originals here.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, you guys move fast though. You and I met right as you came in, and you know, every time I connect with one of you guys, it's like, hey, we're doing this new thing, or we've put out this new feature, or I see something that Woody is put on LinkedIn, or I connected with Tanner earlier this week, and he's like, yeah, check out what I've got Clawbot doing for me, and different stuff like that. So 1 year at AskElephant is like 5 in other places.
It feels like I've learned at least that much. So it's been good. A little tired, but it's been good.
So Mike and I are biased. We're big fans, and we use the tool. I probably spent an hour of my day today in AskElephant, and I bet it, saved me 4 hours and lets me get more done in a day than you typically can. But for the listeners and watchers who aren't familiar with it, can you just share like kind of the elevator pitch of what AskElephant does? I'm sure you could do a better job than we could.
No, I appreciate that. And you never know. Yours might be better than mine. Elevator pitch for AskElephant, I do vary slightly depending on the audience. With this being a RevOps group here, my typical thing is for all your sales or client-facing folks, as soon as the call ends, every of one of the administrative tasks that most sales reps and delivery folks suck at, we automate as much as we possibly can. So everything from updating your CRM, sending your recap emails, notifying a manager about a churn or risk that's been highlighted, things like that, we automate all those. And then after that, when you have regular things that also need to happen, be it, okay, now that we have these deals in HubSpot, how do you make sure they stay up to date? How do you make sure they don't go stale? Does a rep have to come in and clean their pipeline once a week because of things? We try to automate some of that piece too. And then when a rep gets back on their call for the second time or a first time with somebody, we draft all their meeting prep. But your basic note taker stuff, plus
Yeah.
a pretty robust revenue automation engine.
Yeah, that's pretty similar to how I describe it. Micah, take your best crack at describing AskElephant and what you love about it, and then I'll do my best.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
I I describe it as an agentic operating system or platform for companies.
That sounds
Right,
cooler.
because you're not limited to just go to market. Well, it does have a ton of go to market value and whatnot. It has value for other teams, right? Whether that's developers, general operations, you name it, someone can use it. If they're operating in a business, for us, most of it is go to market. Internally, I've shown both of you the one that I built for us, which takes our sales calls and the rep, it analyzes the call. If it's a discovery call, right, it decides based off of the questions and the type of engagement which sales framework between medic or medpic, make the most sense for it and the prospect for that deal, and then goes in and fills out all of the information inside of the deal in HubSpot and flags what the rep missed, and then sends the notifications like, hey, you need to gather this information, right? And it keeps updating that after every call. And that's just an example, but on, like the marketing side, there's so many things that you can do. Yeah, I generally pitch it as the agentic operating system for a business, just because every department can use it and there's a million different use cases. Really, you're just limited by your imagination.
I
Yeah,
love
that's
it.
pretty good. I think for the non-techies, I do kind of adapt my description of it as well. But I think for the non-techies, I kind of describe it as almost like a sales assistant. So while everybody's using like either Zoom AI or Zoom Note Taker or Otter Fireflies, everyone's familiar with these tools, I think, at this point. Summarizing your calls and capturing them is one thing, but being able to go back and chat with the transcript, kind of like Chat GPT, is really useful. I have seen that feature in other tools, but where it really goes to that next level and becomes really agentic, the way Mike had described it is, if there's certain things you need to know for your to update your CRM or your deal records or contact records, it'll just do it for you. And that takes a little more finessing and building the workflows, but that's I think where we found a way to add some value for our clients is, we'll approach it from the strategic side and identify like what they need to know in their sales process and help them get that set up and then train the reps to use the tool, and then they just talk to people. They spend more time selling and less time wrestling CRMs and reviewing notes. But I mentioned, I think before we hit record, I've been in there off and on all day. But when you have a busy day and you go through, a busy day might be 10, 15 plus calls, 2 weeks later, you're like, what did they say about, their favorite color widget? And when you can just find that meeting and chat with it and tell me what they said, and it tells you like 5 other things you also needed to be refreshed on, it just saves you so much time and disk space mentally.
Couldn't agree more.
I think one thing that's interesting about the AI conversation in general, right? Like James, you guys are in the thick of it. And I think a lot of organizations struggle to figure out one, how to implement AI and get value out of it. What do you see as, I guess, the low hanging fruit, right, that organizations can do with AI, but specifically, right, like Ask Elephant is a great way of dipping your foot in the pool, so to speak, around AI for an organization. What do you see as the low hanging fruit there for companies that are evaluating using something like Ask Elephant or AI in general?
I love this thought process. There's probably two pieces, and I'll go a little broader, just AI in general. So
Yeah.
we'll talk about Ask Elephant and then some other things that I recommend folks do. There's probably two main areas I would suggest starting. The first actually has three, with the first being an exercise. That first exercise somebody should do is they should sit down and say, what is my actual job and what am I best at for that job? So pick a sales rep, for example. Their job is to sell clients. Their
Hmm.
job is not to update the CRM. It's not to send emails. It's not to do all those other things. It's to sell. But those things are required for them to sell and do their job. So, and for a CEO, like their job is to execute vision, basically. Like if we were to dumb it down to a few things, that's probably it, and make all the hard decisions, right? It's where the buck stops. But they have 5 million administrative things they're supposed to do that prevent them from doing their job or are required for them to actually do it. So whatever your role is, I would say that the very first exercise is to stop, ask yourself, what's my job? What are the things that I'm best at? What am I supposed to do? And then what's everything else? And go piecemeal by piecemeal and see what you can have AI take off your plate for you. So every single morning, like this morning, I got up like 5:30, pulled up my laptop, said hi to my wife, said hi to my kids, did my own little exercise stuff. About 6:37, pulled up my laptop, and stand up probably 15 agents to go do things for me. And I said, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. I checked in on a few AskElephant things that ran for me last night, did all that. And that literally would have been a full day's worth of work, the stuff that I just started doing. And it took about 30 minutes to manage it. And now I have a full day's worth of work ahead of me. I'm going to review some of the stuff tonight because it takes some hours to run. And that's when I have free time again. But the first piece is I've spent a while doing this process of automating these different parts of my day so I can go and have that already done. So that's the exercise. And then there's two pieces with that I say everybody, like actual practical things. Everything that you have in a conversation, whether it's an internal meeting or external meeting or whatever, should be recorded, and AI should automate everything for you. So everything from sending your recaps, booking stuff in the calendar, like all these different pieces that AI can and should be doing for you, you should offload to AI. And then the second piece is when you have a new thing that you're not sure about and you need to go spend time researching it, the preliminary step, in my opinion, now should always be AI. And I don't mean just like a quick little ChatGPT chat, that's fine. But you can do deep research, you can do Cloud Cowork, you can use AskElephant even to open a remote workbench, and you can have things run these long iterative cycles and get you really deep, rich context that you can then read the synopsis and summary of and save yourself hours and hours.
You're a little more advanced, I think, than the average person in terms of running agents and letting them just do their thing during the day while you're off doing other things.
It takes some time to get used to, but I'm actually behind in our org. There's like, I think I'm like the 15th heaviest user. We only have 26 employees, so there's half our company uses a lot more than I do. So there's always more to learn.
So are you guys using OpenClaw when you say that you're letting agents that take, they have to run overnight? Tell us a little bit about your stack and what you're doing there.
We use, some of our teams use OpenClaw. I don't myself. I use Claude Cowork and AskElephant primarily for my stuff. So Claude Cowork and AskElephant are mine. We have a few teams that use OpenClaw. We have Copilot. We have Cursor. We have, you name almost any bit of it. We have folks
you guys are experimenting in a lot of different ways. Well, I think what you said really rings true. At the end of the day, if a person's job is to sell, but they have all these other things they have to do in order to do that, the more they can maximize and focus their time on actually selling is what I think makes this tool so transformative. So another just easy to digest example is like writing that recap email after a good sales call, right? Like you can go back in there and literally all you have to say to it is write me a recap email, and it does a pretty darn good job. But if you take a little bit of extra time to kind of set up the guardrails and coach the tool on what you want it to do, it's even better, which is fantastic. And when we entered it, one thing that I really love about it, and we didn't get the chance to touch on, is how you can basically, Micah did touch on this a little bit, how you can kind of set up your sales framework, like whether you're using Medic or Medpick or Bant or whatever it may be, and create like the coaching aspect of it so that it looks at the way your organization sells, or ideally the way the best sellers in your organization sell, and then coaches everybody else to that standard, but doing it in a way where they don't feel, what's the word? It's almost less big brothery, ironically, because it's a tool that they're just interacting with on their own. So they're not afraid to say, like, what could I have done better? It's not their boss that's like personally reviewing their performance and telling them what to do. It's a robot, right? It's a tool that's just only there to help them sell more and reach their goals. So I think that's why adoption happens, but from what we've seen, at least, it's a tool that is kind of hard to convey the value prop for someone who's never used it before. But once you just kind of let them try it, if they get a demo, like it becomes a daily use thing. It becomes something like a go-to move.
100%. And to that point, with the coaching specifically, we find most of our clients have close rates increase significantly from things like that. And there's actually a piece that I use internally, which goes to exactly what you're saying, how they can learn from the best and all those different things. Once a week before my team's one-on-ones, I have it go run on all their calls from the past week. And it says, hey, these are your patterns. This is what you're doing well. This is where you suck. This is how you need to change this week. And it's not this personalized, hey, I'm calling you out. It's this, hey, this is going to bring you more dollars. These are the deals this is impacting. Let's role play and practice. And next week you'll close more. So like it becomes a very tactical tool in that sense.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the things that you and I have also talked about, James, that is so, I think, underrated and a lot of people don't think about when we talk about a tool like this is things like forecasting, right? Like sales scorecards are cool, but when you can take the grain of salt out of a rep's forecast submission and use all of the other unstructured data, right, in order to actually get a tool like AskElephant to say, your rep says this, based off of their behaviors and everything that the buyer has said and all this other stuff, right? That beforehand we had no way to actually quantify. You can get a that much more accurate sales pipeline and forecast and understanding of what's actually going on in your revenue engine.
100%. And for reference on that, like let's use this month as an example. The month started on the first Monday of the month. I sent my forecast in. AskElephant did the work for me, came in at what it was, and now we're 6 days from the end of the month, and we have shifted the forecast by $5,000. Like that is it. It is like spot on with a few percentage points of what it actually is going to end up being. And the reps, I had them do this exercise this month where I was like, I want you guys to I hit all the fields for the AskElephant's forecast stuff. And I was like, I want you guys to just go interact with CRM and give them what you think your forecast was. And they were off from AskElephant's by about $85,000, which for us is a material miss on something. And we've already closed almost the whole gap that they were highlighting. And so it's just fun to see very firsthand. A lot of these things are hard, especially when we're partial biased humans. We get excited about something, emotional about another. We don't realize the strong buying signals in a different call because maybe the guy was from New York and had a stiffer personality. I don't know. Like there's just different pieces there that become hard for humans to navigate around that AI can navigate much smoother.
I can't count how many times I've gone back to chat with a transcript to kind of just reflect on what you said. And I think I know what I heard, but I don't know. I got a little bit of that entrepreneurial ADD where like in my brain, I'm finishing people's sentences, you know, and I heard what I wanted to hear. And this tool has opened my eyes where I'll go back and I'll basically like ask it to break something down for me. I'm like, that's not what I heard. Maybe they meant this. And then like I'll sit there and chat with the transcript, almost like I'm still talking to the person. I feel like I'm in their head, right? And it's like, no, I think what they meant was this, which is close to what you thought, but significantly different if you really think about it deeply. And I know that sounds super like subliminal, but I can't tell you how many times it's helped me like navigate around a pothole that I would have put in my own way if I hadn't gone back and sat there and chatted with the thing. It's pretty cool. On the RevOps piece too, you know, obviously RevOps kind of encompasses sales, marketing, and service teams. I'd like to we talked a lot about like how this tool benefits sales teams. Micah has come up with some really cool shit that he's done to use this to help take our sales conversations and turn them into marketing opportunities, thanks to AskElephant. So we can talk about that a bit. But also like on the service or delivery side, we're using it there as well. So like we have all of our account managers using AskElephant. And whether you're a SaaS company with success managers or any type of company where you have customer service reps, there's a lot of value there we can unpack as well. I think that would probably be worth talking about. But Michael, why don't you share some of the cool things you've done to mine some value out of AskElephant for our own marketing or for clients' marketing?
Yeah. And I think James heard this when I was out there about a month ago, but anyone that does marketing, right, knows what a slog the content treadmill is, which is just exhausting. You can only run keyword research so much before you're looking at the same keywords again. And the way that search is shifting, it's going more towards like specific questions that are going to be put in an AI, and it has to be significantly more human. And so one of the things that we've stood up on our end is AskElephant analyzes all of our CS, but also sales calls, and finds all of the questions that are being asked, whether that's around HubSpot or RevOps or marketing, pay-per-click, any topic like that. And it looks over, you know, a 90-day period, a 90-day look back, and it will find the 5 top categories, broadly speaking, that are talked about across all of these calls, across both teams. And then it will split that out into 5 categories. And then underneath each of those categories, give the top 5 to 7 questions that were asked. And then inside of that, give a breakdown of, you know, suggested keywords, suggested audience, what are some potential pages based off of our site structure, because it has access to that. You know, how should we interlink all of these different things, and how does it fit into, you know, our existing content strategy? And it just makes the content treadmill that much more bearable, because from there, right, it gives the base, and then, you know, we can go in and say, okay, well, here are all these questions. We're going to turn these into social posts. We're going to do a podcast about this. We're going to do a video about this. We're going to do a blog about this, and helps kind of fill the calendar of all the different things that we want to produce and talk about, but also then can disseminate to the rest of the teams to be, hey, here are the questions that customers are, asking. This is an opportunity to talk about how we solve that, how we think about that, and how we message that from a marketing perspective. So that's been huge as far as helping us keep the pipeline full, but also in a service business where we cover a lot of different lines, like understand and be pointed about what we're marketing.
I absolutely love that. Couldn't have said any bit better myself. And the piece that I love is it's not just like time savings. It obviously is a huge time savings,
Right.
but it's a if I'm not, I don't want to put words in your mouth either, but I know for us, it's probably a huge quality improvement. So
Yeah.
you're not just saving hundreds of hours in a quarter, but the actual messaging you're putting out is far superior to anything you're going to get elsewhere. Like we even have this consulting group we've been using, and they're great. They do a lot of stuff that's really good. But part of the stuff that I'm like, what they're giving us is not any better, is how do you actually message our tool to a specific persona? We track everything by personas. This is a senior RevOps leader. This is a CRO. This is a VP of CS, whatever, right? And we get to track what messaging lands with them and what doesn't from all of our sales and CS calls. And we get to get quotes from them in their roles after they roll it out from our account management team and hear from their own mouth, this is what we love. And so we can adjust all our persona-based messaging for all of that. And it's been really fun to see.
Yeah, being able to do things like that basically at scale has always been the challenge and really the holy grail of taking a qualitative thing and almost approaching it quantitatively, if that even makes sense. It's like
It
super
does.
heady, but
Yeah.
on the other side of the house, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but account managers and service or delivery teams, success managers, whatever they're called in your organization, in our world, they're account execs or account managers. We've been using it with them as well. And another interesting thing, I'll come back to that I recently did was I built a little MCP connection between Claude, which I use constantly, and AskElephant. So being able to hang out in Claude where it already knows all these things about what I like and don't like and what I'm looking for and what I consider a success or a failure, and asking it to pull a transcript out of AskElephant and being able to top it up right in there in Claude has been really, really helpful. But for even our account managers, if you think about, I'll use an MSP for an example, they might have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 support. Their tier 3 folks, like everyone can relate to this, they keep them behind the scenes. So the tier 1 folks are probably more than likely the ones that are greeting them when a new support ticket comes in. And to be able to escalate without losing any context or having to re-explain what the call was about or type up notes and do that in literally seconds, that's the power of AskElephant for a service team. And just today, our developers were saying like, hey, this AskElephant thing you guys keep sharing summaries from, can I just have access to that? We're like, you could, but it's really for the people that are talking to the customers. Like, we'd rather just kind of give you the summaries. It's like, can I have like a login? Like, he's just clamoring for it. It's like, we're probably going to do that at some point, is get our devs on there too, just so it's even easier for them to dive into the calls that they shouldn't be on. It's just not the best use of their time. But to be able to miss those calls without missing anything is the really cool thing that it does for you.
It brings the voice of the customer to everybody who doesn't talk to customers. We have our whole dev team on AskElephant, obviously. We dogfood our own
Really?
tool like no one's business. Every one of
Nice.
them. Yeah. And there's a few pieces that I've loved, that they have loved especially, and that I've loved from the product end. To Micah's point earlier, we roll things out every single week into production. We move very quick, and AI has made it very possible. One of the things that I love is I think technically it's still in beta. There's a thing we call signals, but it's essentially like a little mini data file that you can have on all of your data calls and essentially create a database out of it inside AskElephant, all AI powered. So we have one that's about feature requests, whether it's on a sale or a post sale or any part of the process. If a client is saying, this is something I need and we don't have it, it just logs it. And then we get to track however many times that thing gets requested and how many dollars are tied to it, how many existing customers, what the sentiment is, all that stuff. And our product team, once it hits certain thresholds, it auto creates tickets. And those tickets auto get sent into linear. And there's this other few processes I don't fully understand because I'm not that technical. One of our guys built a whole tool he calls Ralph. That's awesome. And what Ralph does is it takes these tickets and essentially drafts up PRDs. And then our senior developers review them like once a week. And they make some tweaks or merge it and push it to production. And we have that happen a couple times a week at least, where these tickets spin up something, it hits a threshold, and we say, yep, this is worth us doing. And we just go and push it out. So like it's so fun to watch. The world's a different place.
Yeah, everything's happening so much faster. things that used to take $250,000 in 12 to 18 months, people building prototypes, live coding them in a week, maybe a weekend. It's
Yep.
pretty wild. I have a request for you. How realistic is this? And hopefully this isn't something that you have in your R&D right now, but I started to see some apps come out that are doing live coaching. So literally showing you on the screen, they said this, you might want to say this. Like, is that something that might be on the roadmap or in the future? Or are there just too many complications with the behind the scenes speech to text and text to speech that has to, you know, get transcribed and whatnot?
Love this. I piloted our prototype of this about a month ago. There are a few pretty serious hurdles and challenges to overcome to do it correct. And there's actually, fun fact, there's about 10 or so different companies that have launched this over the past little while that then pulled it back.
Yeah.
Because
I
to get it,
haven't seen anybody doing it well, but I feel like it's coming.
it is a challenge. We are working on to overcome it a lot. There's a few things that have to be true. First, yeah, in our opinion, we like to be opinionated on things. You have to have a really good botless recording, because if you are waiting on internet delays or a bunch of other stuff, it's just not sufficient. So botless recording has to be perfected so it runs locally on your computer, can be live, can give you insights specifically. So that's part one of what we're moving to. The prototype I used a month ago wasn't that. It was using the web base, and it was actually kind of cool. It spat up on the screen because I showed up late to a call on one of them when I was using it, and it literally popped up a little summary and said, "James, you just jumped in. Here's what you missed." Like 3 little bullets. And I was like, that's sick. And then it's like, here's
Oh,
2
wow.
outstanding questions. You're a technical person. You should probably answer these. And literally it just like showed it on the screen for all of us. So it made it really easy for me to be like, I guess you have these questions. Let's dive into it. So it is going to be freaking sweet when it's here. To get it to work consistently at scale across all call types, it's just a big architecture. That's all.
Yep. Yep. It'll be really cool when we can start using that little tactic where we invite 2 or 3 prospects to the same call and we leave them in the waiting room, and then our AI tells us everything they talked about in the waiting room. That's we're not
That's
far off
coming.
from that.
I
That's
am
super big
certain it's
brothery.
coming. That is big brothery.
Yeah. They said you're a third place runner up for this opportunity because of this, this, and this. Like, oh, really? Did they?
Hey, that'd be good insights to have on the sales side though.
Yeah, I mean, James, you're a former and current, HubSpot power user, because we're a HubSpot shop, and I'm a former HubSpotter.
Mhm.
What do you think the biggest plus is by the two working so well together? We've kind of touched on a lot of different things, but you and I are both pretty opinionated on both tools, so I'm just curious.
Yes, I have rolled out about 150 HubSpot instances myself to different clients over my consulting little career, which for some people is a lot. For many, it's just not very much. But for me, it's 150. So whatever that is. And my biggest pet peeve from all of them is when I get a sales manager or CRO and they're like, we need you to go build all these things, make all these fields required at these stages. And I'm like, you're asking for like reps to fill out a whole lot of stuff. Do you actually think they're going to do it? Yeah, they're going to do it. We can just force them to. Okay, I always had this thought in my mind. Bad leadership, didn't tell me why, didn't all those things. But the thing I always have seen downstream from that is reps don't do it. And then I get a call a month later and the CRO was like, they're not using it. I need you to go make these changes. First off, we told you that was going to happen. But this is not a problem with HubSpot, or it's just common with CRMs and humans interfacing with technology. So as silly as it sounds, like literally just accurately being able to control every single field based off the source of truth, which is calls and emails, like actual client interactions, not someone's thoughts and feelings. Being able to populate everything based off that, it is such a relief that I don't have to now roll something out for somebody and then be like, well, we don't use it. It's like we set up a workflow, everything automates your CRM, and now you're using both tools way more than you ever were, and you're getting more value out of it. And it genuinely becomes this 1 + 1 = 5. So I'm a fan.
I mean, you mentioned workflows. We've both built a lot as far as, HubSpot and AskElephant are concerned, and we've touched on a lot. What is the coolest use case or one of your favorite use cases that you have seen someone build for a AskElephant workflow in particular? Because I guess to set the stage, for those that are familiar with a Zapier or a Make.com or even a HubSpot workflow automation, AskElephant has a similar builder in it where it's, map-based with nodes that you can connect and wire up these things to, do whatever you want. So when we say a workflow inside of AskElephant, that's what we're talking about. So with that context now for the listener, James, what is your favorite one that you've seen built or have built?
I love this question. If I hadn't already shared the dev one that our internal dev team uses, that might have been the one, because they also pull from stuff from HubSpot, and it leverages a ton of different things to get that to work. And that's probably my favorite. But since I already shared that one, I think my next favorite is probably, in fact, this client did it even better than how I do it. They have it run. They have a couple different workflows in HubSpot that are tracking all the updates that we make from AskElephant. And they're saying, okay, you said the next step date was going to be this. And then you push the date, and then you push the date, and the next step never changed. And they have a couple different ways they track all that stuff with some properties and workflows in HubSpot. But essentially they hit this flag where they say, this has now been pushed too much by a human. This is not real stuff. Like, stuff's just not real anymore. Like, I do it simply where if the next update's come and passed, then I just have it go run a stale thing, and it's very simple, and it works because our reps don't update HubSpot nearly as much because AskElephant does so much for them. So that's a clean way. For these guys, their reps are always in their system a lot, which is great. It's actually how it should be, in my opinion. Like, you should be hands-on, and AI should be hands-on. But because they're all hands-on and they're updating a lot of this stuff, close dates, next updates, their robust way of triggering when something's gone stale, that can then say, AskElephant, okay, now go run, read all the emails, read all the notes, because they have a changelog note that they make every time they make one of these things. And it reads and digests all that, and it can say, yep, this is real, or, hey, you're now living in La La Land. This should be closed lost. Or, hey, you're just ignoring the fact that they've told you 3 times this is a Q3 project. You already have a call booked on the calendar for Q3. So you can lose it, or you can just push it out to then, but it's going to happen in Q3. So stop being a dunce. There's enough stuff there that it's freaking cool. And it's way more robust than what we've done internally. And it's actually what we should go build, frankly.
That's pretty awesome. You reminded me of one. I doubt he's going to watch this podcast, but it's an opportunity we have on the board at this precise moment. Someone popped in my office and said, "You're never going to guess who called. Got a meeting coming up tomorrow." They pop into HubSpot, and this is way before we had AskElephant. So this deal goes back 6 years. So I fire up my Claude HubSpot MCP. I'm like, summarize all of the activities and conversations and emails on this deal record. and thanks to that, we got a pretty nice little synopsis of the pattern, right? About once every 18 months, this person comes in hot, wants proposals, wants to talk about a lot of things, and then completely stops responding, ghosts, and then shows up and says, things have changed. We need to revisit this project. So if we had AskElephant in this workflow sooner, I think maybe we would have likely identified that we need to stop chasing it, if I had to guess. But that's just how it goes sometimes. Right?
Yeah.
You guys are probably both old enough. I talk about Pepe Le Pew all the time, which I don't know if Pepe Le Pew would work in 2026, but just got to keep chasing them. That's all you can do.
I'm gonna go and put together a agent for sales and call it Pepe Le Pew and just have it be a relentless follow-up.
Yes.
You should. I'm excited to see it.
That's funny. Well, James, anything else we didn't touch on that you want to talk about in terms of like maybe what's on the roadmap or cool features? I mean, AskElephant's a little bit to get your head around if you're a non-techie type, or if you think about some of those industries out there, just oblige me for a second. Like I have a friend, for example, he does industrial flooring solutions for manufacturers, people who need a very rugged, sticky, clean surface for a manufacturing floor, right? This is a huge company, $1 billion+ company, hundreds of reps, territories, all these advanced use cases. And I think one of their challenges is they're doing a lot of in-person sales still, right? You know, they're walking in a loud environment where recording just because of that is difficult. But my big question is, you know, that's probably the deep end of the pool and the wider end of the market. And at this point in internet history, you know, I think that a lot of the SaaS companies, SaaS sales reps, they're using all these tools. How do you make this accessible to the guys like that, like the one that I just mentioned, to make their life easier and kick ass? Because I think they have the most upside too.
I couldn't have said it better. Our marketing team, about February, so 2 months ago, 3 months ago now, came out and said, yeah, because we'd seen a couple of these, we call them boring industries internally. They're not really boring. They're actual, it's where rubber meets the road for all of reality.
Some of the top performing sales reps in those boring industries are making like multiple 6 figures. Like crushing it.
And they should. But there's a few pieces that's different for those folks, as you highlighted. Most of it's in person. Not most is the wrong phrase. Some people talk 50-50, and some it's only 25%. But even 25% of your stuff being in person is significant. And so we do have a mobile app and it does work. So all those folks that we have doing field sales use that. But there's two pieces that you said that I think are important. One, a lot of these guys have not used AI hardly at all. And so you'll see a release here in May. If I'm not mistaken, it's May 4th. We're doing it. Happy Star Wars Day. On May 4th, we're going to have something come out that's going to be, we're calling it like I don't ruin their marketing thing, give a sneak peek too early, but it's going to be essentially assistant. It's like a sidekick. It's going to be we thought about calling it single player mode, where it's like me just as a user, I don't have to be technical at all. And I can still get this Jarvis-esque assistant to work with me. And for these folks that are going on the road a lot, the idea is, they can record in person. A lot of them don't want to. We've had a conversation with some guy. He's like 45 years old. He makes $700,000 a year doing these sales to industrial manufacturers. Very similar to
There's
your
nothing
story.
wrong with 45-year-olds, first of all.
Hey, no, but what I mean is, good old boy knows what he's doing, doesn't want me to tell him how to do his job. And he's not wrong. He does. Obviously, he makes great money. But in his case, he was like, look, I'm not going to pull the phone out and record the call. He's like, so I need something else. And I was like, what if you just brain dumped after the meeting? You leave, you get in your car, and you pull up the meeting, and you record, and you say everything that happened that matters, that you walked away from, and then it still goes and triggers and updates all your HubSpot, sends a recap email, does all that stuff. It's as fresh as can be in your mind, and he can do it while he's driving to his next appointment, or while he's on the John in between different conferences while he's there on site still. So like
That's awesome.
There's a few pieces there that I think genuinely for the next year or so, AskElephant's already decided we are going to chase some of these boring industries for this, but I'm becoming convinced that these folks who are distanced from AI because they're not in SaaS, they're not in tech, they're going to realize how a few simple pieces can 2x or 3x their efficiency on some of this stuff, and we're going to see a lot of change and adoption there.
That's very, very awesome. If my agency blows up tomorrow, I'm calling you. I'm coming
Deal.
to sell AskElephant to these boring industries.
I
That's
love
pretty
it.
cool. Micah, you're probably coming with me, right?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, good. Excited to have you both.
Awesome. Mike, any closing thoughts? I know we're getting kind of to the end of our time limit here.
No, I mean, I was going to bring up very similar stuff, because it's something I think about a lot as we work, across a very diverse customer base. And I kind of flip between multiple teams and customers, and parachuting in and running out. I think, what James said is exactly right. Because even I do it where, I have the app on my phone, and what I will do is I'll start a meeting basically to do exactly what James mentioned, where it's not necessarily talking directly into a brain dump, but it is an impromptu meeting. I'll have it recording right after if it's an in-person meeting, and then I'll go and put that with the customer later, but I get all of my thoughts out in the moment, and then it's a couple drag and drops. But I also think the big thing to highlight, and the final thing I'll say on it before we hop off here, is even outside of that, right, those industries are well positioned to take advantage of this, because realistically, your field sales reps and other frontline people that are interfacing with customers don't necessarily need to know how all the technical back end stuff works and how to string together things and connect it to HubSpot, right? They just need to know to make sure it either shows up to the meeting or to give it their thoughts at a later date. Really, all a company needs to take advantage of this is one good hire that is a little interested in marrying the systems together or working with an agency like Mendeley to make it happen. And then they can take advantage of it from day one, because they can pull all that stuff out, and it is quick to deploy and connect to the stuff and get the base value and then build from there.
Couldn't agree more. And I do want to second how you ended that with a lot of orgs today don't have the bandwidth to go and take on a project and do all these builds. It's probably the most common phrase I hear from executives the past 3 months, especially. They're like, we're heads down on all these things, chasing dollars. There's some market disruptions going on, partly because of AI. And a lot of these guys are scrambling, and having an agency they can turn to just say, hey, let's bill you 30, 50 hours, whatever they do to do some configurations across the board. That sets it up so that their AI infrastructure can be significantly better. Whether AskElephant or not, I strongly recommend companies who are like, I don't know how to do stuff with AI right now. They absolutely should hire someone like you guys. Like, you guys are one of the best out there. There's probably 5 agencies that I'm like, you guys are like doing it right. And there's thousands others that I'm like, you don't get it yet. So like, if anyone's listening to this podcast and you're like, man, I don't know where to start, I could not recommend something better than coming to Mendeley, working with Chris or Micah and saying, hey, how do I get myself back up to speed in 2026?
James, really appreciate that. A big vote of confidence because I know you talk to a lot of small businesses that have sales teams, and some are maybe using HubSpot, some are not. And not to mention even the other agencies you work with. I know we're in good company with all the other agencies that are supporting Ask Elephant. I guess in closing, we really appreciate your time today. It was great to chat with you again. If your company is on HubSpot, and your company has sales reps, or even if your company's not on HubSpot and your company has sales reps who are finding themselves wrestling with CRMs and spending too much time with making sense of their notes and relaying messages, Ask Elephant, I don't like to use this word. I feel like it's overused, but Ask Elephant has been transformative. We eat our own dog food. We use it every single day. We have about 7 or 8 members of our team who are using it constantly.
12.
We've implemented it for 12. Sorry, Micah, Mr. Data Nerd guy.
It's gone up.
12 people on our team are using it and counting. There's more people on our team who are asking for licenses. It is a transformative tool. Can't recommend it highly enough. Our team's very familiar with it. And if it's something you're interested in and you want to shorten that learning curve, we'd love to help. James, I think you mentioned before we hit record that there might be a special offer for some of the folks who took the time to listen this far along. Could you give them some details on that?
There are. It's the Vendilli special. Anybody who references this podcast when you book with us, just let us know, hey, that you came from this podcast or heard about it, and we'll give you 15% off. I know I can honor it the next 30 days after this goes live, so we will do that for sure. If you've watched this podcast, you'll probably mention the next 30 days anyways. So go ahead and bring it up.
And no matter how much we talk about it, I got to say, it's one of those tools. If you buy one license and try it for a week, it's game over. You're sold. Like you're never going to want to give it up once you've messed with this thing. It's that powerful and it's that useful. It's like giving every one of your sales reps a sales assistant. That's how I like to describe it. So thanks for your time, James. It was great chatting with you again. And if you enjoyed the content in this interview, please like and subscribe and follow the Nice Doing Business With You podcast.
Great to be here. Cheers.
Cheers.